shelter of those little candles in the glass, in the red glass that we used to use when it was windy up in the park to cook up. And then this altar boy, he's coming down the aisle with this 6-foot candle. You know, I vision this huge spoon above it, man, with like shopping bags full of dope inside of it. And then the kicker comes, man. The priest, he starts doing the thing with the incense, you know, starts wafting out. I'm in the back. It finally hits me. Where do I know this smell from, man? Am I wrong, man? It's a smell exactly of really primo dope cooking up. Exactly the same.
So what happened next?
Do you know the irony behind this scene in this cult classic film, The Basketball Diaries? Well, allow me to give you a little backstory. You see, this character right here is Jim Carroll, played by young Academy Award winner Leonardo DiCaprio. The irony is actually the guy he's talking to in this scene, which is a character playing a strung-out drug dealer. But who is playing this drug dealer, you ask? Well, let's take a closer look. This guy that's playing the strung-out drug dealer is the real Jim Carroll. James Dennis Carroll, also known as Jim, was born August 1st, 1949 in New York City, to his mother Agnes Carroll and to his father Thomas J. Carroll. He was born to a Catholic working-class Irish-American family, with his father being a bartender in the community and his mom a caregiver. In his early years, Jim was raised in the Lower East Side of Manhattan until his family moved uptown to a local neighborhood in New York City called Inwood. From a young age, Jim has developed a love for sports such as baseball, football, and basketball. But he would soon realize he would garner way more attention playing basketball, being that he played extremely well. During his time playing for minor basketball leagues and organizations, young Jim Carroll was used to averaging about 40 points a game. In his early basketball career, it became apparent that Jim started to take a liking to writing. After transferring to a Catholic private school, he began to discover contemporary poets, which inspired him to have aspirations to become one day. Not only that, writing has also led him to his diary to write about his preteen festivities, which unbeknownst to him at the time would be the significant start to his coming-of-age memoir titled The Basketball Diaries. In his early set of entries, we get to see the ins and outs of the young life of Jim Carroll, the different relationships and interaction he has with his friends, family, peers, coaches, teachers, young ladies, and drugs. From the time Jim was 12 years old, it seemed as though friends and drugs played an active role in his life. It's kind of funny because at the age of 5 and 6, Jim recalls a time when he made a vow to himself to not do no drugs at all. But with all his friends doing it, all kind of vows dropped from under him every day. With using drugs like weed, methadone, codeine, even heroin, which would be the most dangerous and addictive drug to him out of them all, and doing small gestures such as sniffing glue and cleaning fluid to get high. At times in the Basketball Diaries, Jim would write about his adventures and unfortunately at times misadventures of getting high with his friends. Adventures like skipping practice to take a trip on the ferry to Staten Island where one of his homeboys suggests that they get high by sniffing cleaning fluid. But the moment soon takes a left turn when everyone gets sick and starts throwing up on pictures from the top of the overhead. And misadventures like finding out that one of his childhood friends passed away from getting too high to the point where he fell off a high-story building. Much like the time when he wrote about a dear friend of his, Bobby, who died from leukemia at the young age of 16, and how unfamiliar his friend looked to him when he went to go view his body at a funeral. Despite the sad times, it seemed as though Jim still managed to have a good time during his adolescence at the expense of getting high. Getting high with his buddies, getting high with his girlfriends, even when he transferred to his new school on scholarship during the middle of the school year. In his diary, he subtly mentions that he would use drugs to make new friends. Oh yeah, and he also got high before basketball games too, which clearly didn't work out for him at times. In his younger years, it wasn't always easy for Jim to cop drugs. Besides having a job at the Yankee Stadium, which didn't last very long due to him getting fired, Jim had to come up with creative and interesting ways to fund his lifestyle, like snatching handbags from old ladies and hustling gay men. Now, if you read the Basketball Diaries, it's very apparent that Jim was not attracted to men at all. In fact, you'll actually see how uncomfortable he is during these encounters with these perverted men. And I only use the term perverted because this kid was very much a minor at the time. After watching the movie The Basketball Diaries, I asked myself, if he's not gay, then why is he letting these people do these things to him for money? But I soon realized after actually reading the diaries that this is something that Jim has been accustomed to since a very young age, just by living in New York alone. I mean, he even suspected that his minor league basketball coach liked boys even before he knew what the term gay or homosexual meant. And not only did he come across a lot of men like that in his neighborhood, he came across even more in the city, where he would find majority of his clients. By the time Jim was 14 years old, he was already addicted to heroin, and he slowly began to realize the tight hold it had on him, like the physical restraints, even the strain it had on the relationship with his parents. With his father being a local bartender in a conservative Irish community, it was kind of difficult to hear disparaging comments from his customers about his druggy, hippie son. And it also didn't help when Jim was around 14 to 15 years old when he got locked up in Rikers Island Juvenile Reformatory for possession of 3 bags of heroin in a syringe. He ended up only doing a month's time, but it was obvious that him being there really took a toll on him because he rarely wrote as much. But you could also tell that the heroin had a much tighter hold on him than he thought, because as much of a terrible time that he had in Rikers, once he got out and entered back into New York, he was offered a syringe full of heroin. He almost refused, and it was a moment he dreamt of passionately and cursed even more. But with the dream in front of him again, he found it that it was quite easy to curse, but so much harder to refuse. So then he gave in, again. By the end of the diaries, Jim constantly writes about how he wants to be pure again. Although he ends up reverting back to his old ways of getting drug money by sticking people up, with actual weapons this time. On the last page of the diaries, Jim was drunk out on a nice sunny day in June. He looked outside of the bedroom window, which drew him to a beautiful medieval art outside. And that's when he thought to himself, I just want to be pure. But purity will require deeper wallowing and only then renunciation. In 1966, the Poetry Project was founded, which is a non-profit literary organization in the East Village of New York at the St. Mark's Church in the Bowery. At this time, Jim was about 15 or 16 years old. He began attending readings at the St. Mark's Church, which is where he was able to connect with established poets like Anne Wildman, Allen Ginsberg, and Ted Berrigan. After receiving his material, Allen Ginsberg thought Jim's writing was good enough to be embraced as a token prodigy. In fact, his attendance at the Poetry Project was such a turning point in his life that Jim Carroll was able to rub shoulders with pivotal novelist and poet Jack Kerouac, who was so taken aback by Jim's diary entries from back in the day that he believed that Jim Carroll wrote better than 89% of the novelists working at that time. With all the recognition and praise, Jim managed to get his writing published in the Poetry Project's very own publication. By 1968, the Paris Review was publishing Jim Carroll's poems. 2 years after that, the magazine printed pieces of his diary. Within the next decade, the official Basketball Diaries memoir were put onto the shelves. Despite all his success with his writing, Jim continues to struggle with his addiction to heroin. Jim managed to get treatment across the country in Bolinas, California. Mercifully, he became clean of heroin by 1975. Now, during the 70s, Jim Carroll was heavily involved in the downtown art scene. Now, this is where painters, photographers, musicians, and performers and writers would come together to create work that pushed traditional limits of artistic categories. While being a part of the downtown art scene in Lower Manhattan, Jim was able to meet now legendary punk singer, songwriter, and poet Patti Smith, and they would soon enter a romantic relationship together. In the late 70s, Patti encouraged Jim to put together a punk band. Then so he did, and he would call his band the Jim Carroll Band. Their debut album, Catholic Boy, featured hits like People Who Died, which is an interesting song where he talks about the unfortunate demise of the people he has known. He actually mentioned his childhood friend Bobby, who died of leukemia at the young age of 16. In the mid-80s, the Jim Carroll Band unfortunately broke up, which led Jim Carroll to return back to his poetry writing and focus on spoken word performances. Approximately 15 years after Jim Carroll has entered into the world, a guy by the name of Scott Calvert was born. When Scott was 15 years old, he read the memoir, The Basketball Diaries by Jim Carroll, and after reading it, he had big dreams and aspirations of bringing this story to the big screen. And in the early 90s, that's exactly what he did. In the summer of 1993, the shooting for The Basketball Diaries began. The cast consisted of some heavy hitters like Leonardo DiCaprio, who was already Oscar nominated for his work in What's Eating Good Was Great that same year, an extremely popular musician at the time, Marky Mark, aka Mark Wahlberg. The film The Basketball Diaries premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 1995. It was noticed that Jim Carroll was not present for the film's premiere, but being that he had other priorities working on his new novel, he just preferred not to go. Besides, after finally getting a chance to see the film, it's alleged that Jim Carrey had some reservations about the film, particularly about the film's ending. He thought it failed to capture the true raw nature of his recovery, whereas he believed the ending was portrayed as too clean and kind of conceited. But overall, the film received mixed reviews from the public and critics. While people praised Leonardo DiCaprio for his outstanding performance playing a teenage heroin addict, the public also criticized the film for being cliche and superficial. And honestly, I could agree. After reading the book entirely, I realized that the movie is nothing but a watered-down version of Jim Carroll's life as a teenager. And if you also read the book, then you know that there was no recovery process for his addiction at all. In other words, there was no happy ending. It's clear that the film did nothing other than capture bits and pieces of Carroll's book, but not in full. In fact, there were even characters a part of the film that weren't even associated with the book at all.
Write about me in that book of yours. Actually, I was a little hurt I wasn't mentioned.
A whole decade after the Basketball Diaries film premiere, Jim Carroll relocated back to his old neighborhood in New York from Los Angeles. He dedicated most of his time working on his first fiction novel, The Petting Zoo, which he has spent nearly 2 decades on and sadly up until his final day. On September 11, 2009, James Dennis Carroll died of a heart attack in his home in Manhattan. He was 60 years old when he passed away. Despite all the things he's been through as a teenager, James Dennis Carroll was able to live a full and audacious life. He has experienced some things that most recovered addicts haven't, and it's safe to say that he has done it fruitfully.